Aerobars, much like riding a bike, can be a daunting prospect. They get a bit of a reputation for being twitchy, perhaps a little bit uncomfortable. In fact, they get a bad rep in general, and that's really for something that can be solved, right?
Yeah, exactly. With the right adjustments, the right training, you can make the Aerobars comfortable and feel more stable. So today we're going to be running you through some tips that can help newcomers to the sports of triathlon and time trialing, and also old hands. Okay, despite it being a beautiful day here, it pains me to say we are not going to be riding today, Fraser. I'm sorry. We really feel like this is quite an important topic that, well, we want to make sure that we get the information across to you clearly and we can demonstrate that clearly too.
Yeah, now, whether you are setting up a brand new position or you're making adjustments to an existing one, you really need to do these changes as incrementally as possible. Now, this is not only good practice for injury prevention, but it also affects our comfort and position on the bike too. Because if we make really major changes to the position of our bike, well, it can affect things like our pedal stroke or the handling of our bike to such an extent that we're not really sure if it feels good or just really plain old bizarre.
Yeah, and actually by making these changes more gradually, it almost, well, our perception of how we feel on a bike kind of has time to catch up with those changes that we've made. And what we find is that those athletes that do make those small incremental changes actually stick to those changes that they've made in those new positions, whereas those athletes that rush ahead, they make dramatic changes, kind of revert back to their old position and actually are quite opposed to making any changes in the future. So if we take our stack height, which is a prime example for changes of position, you actually only want to make a movement of around 5 to 10 millimeter. So say you're dropping those armrests down 5 to 10 millimeters maximum at a time, and that on some bikes could literally be one riser stack.
Okay, so once you've found that desired position, or in fact you might well still be in the middle of those incremental changes, it's time to start riding in that position. But rather than heading outside and forcing yourself to ride for sustained periods of time in the Aerobars, just take a step back and ease yourself into it. So I'd suggest popping the bike indoors on the turbo trainer and just doing some nice, short, easy reps in the Aerobars and then coming back out of them to have a little bit of a rest. And I'd suggest something like 3 minutes down in the Aerobars, 2 minutes out of the bars. Repeat that through 5 times, giving us 20 minutes of worth time on the Aerobars and then 30 minutes as a total. We can, as we get more advanced, spend longer times in the Aerobars and just reduce how much time we have out of them.
Now, as we dial into that position, another area to look to for comfort is the actual elbow rests and pads themselves. Now, much like the saddle, this is a really, really important area, so do not feel like you've just got to stick with whatever comes with the bike. So, first of all, it might just be simply the angle of those pads. Now, a lot of athletes are going for slightly more angled pads and even with ski bends in front. Now, that is mostly for aerodynamics, but actually, I also believe it is slightly more comfortable too. You're almost like locked into your position. Another area is with the rests. Now, you want to go for something ideally with a bit of curvature on the outside of the rest, and that just helps to lock the elbows into place and you feel a bit more stable there. And finally, you might also want to look at the actual padding on those rests. Now, you might actually want to change them out for something slightly thicker. And actually in the past, I've bought something online like go-kart seat padding, which is, I've got about 10 millimeter thick, cut it to size and stuck that down to replace the existing one.
Now, once you've found that new position, the key is to start accumulating saddle time in that changed position. A real issue with a lot of athletes is they forget to actually spend time in their new position when they're riding hard. And as we alluded to before, if you're going to be able to race in this position, you must be able to train in this new position at a good pace too. More often than not, it will feel easy and comfortable at a lesser pace. But by going out there and riding hard in this new position, it might flag up some issues or changes that might need to be made. And I know, for example, when I'm riding really hard, I'll tend to creep forward on the nose of the saddle. And what that means is I really just need to shunt pads and ski poles further forward.
Now obviously cycling mostly comes from the legs, but by having a slightly stronger upper body and core, we can actually maintain our position in the aero bars for longer, fatigue less quickly, and ultimately feel more comfortable. Now, I'm not suggesting we all head out to gym and we get huge, but by just improving our strength and our stability a little bit can help massively, and also help with our power transfer to the pedals. Now, a perfect exercise for this is the plank, and in case you're not sure how you do one of those, well, Fraser is demonstrating it perfectly for us right now. And a side plank, Fraser? No. No, okay, not a side plank. But do not feel like you need to do this in your cycling kit or out on a ride. You can, of course, do this at home or at the gym.
Now then, if you're going to be out on your bike and the roads are going to be narrow or twisty, it could be really difficult to settle into your aero bars for any length of time. When I was going out on my TT bike, I always tried to look for wider or flatter terrain where it's going to be easier to be in my aero bars for more sustained periods of time. I'm not saying you necessarily have to be that thorough with your route planning, but do try and avoid busier roads or side streets or driveways. And the same goes for group riding actually. Just being around other riders, especially when you're trying to settle into the aero bars, can be unnerving, so just be careful. Also, you're going to be quite far away from your brakes, and this just stops you from being able to adapt to maneuvers in the group or avoid obstacles. And actually, you're not going to make any friends really quickly if you're riding on your bars and they aren't.
And finally, be mindful of the terrain that we're riding. All too often, I see athletes staying in the aero bars beyond the point of efficiency. And what I mean by this is actually below a certain speed, we lose the aerodynamic advantage of our aero bars. And technically speaking, that's around 15 kilometers per hour. But personally, anything around 20 kilometers per hour and obviously below that, I jump up out of the aero bars because that's what feels comfortable for myself. So what I'm saying is just be wary of the terrain that you're approaching and coming up to. Keep an eye out for it and actually make some smooth changes. Get up out of the aero bars as you're approaching them, rather than almost erratically fighting your bike because you just haven't noticed those inclines coming up. Well, there we go. There are our 6 tips for getting more comfortable in the aero bars. And this is actually something that we have each had to go through and kind of still do with each and every new bike that we get. So I guess you could say this is tried and tested methods.
Sure is. Now, if you've got any of your own suggestions, please drop them in the comments section below. We'd love to hear those. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it the thumb up. Don't forget, click on the globe, subscribe, get all the other videos we've got on the channel. And if you want to see a video that Mark did about comfort versus aero, you can get that here.
Yeah, and if you'd like to find out how you can increase your power on the bike, then just click down here.